Well, hello, everybody, and welcome into After the Game with Todd Leary. Of course, coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bloomington, Indiana, taking on the third-ranked Michigan Wolverines today. And a game, Todd, that I don't think anyone expected Indiana to win. I wanted to see what they would do, how they would play, what they could get out of this game, and that's pretty much what we got.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and you know, I said it the other night, and I truly have tried to keep a positive attitude all day. We did not expect Indiana to beat this team. I don't expect anyone in the Big Ten to beat this team. So I'm not going to sit here and harp all day on why we lost this particular basketball game. I thought some guys had some moments of looking pretty good. I like the lineup, although obviously I'd love for Armand to be available to play. I think he makes Indiana better. But seeing Finney and Lander play together didn't hurt my feelings either. And I thought Finney played better at two guard today than he has at point guard.
It was actually interesting to see the coaching kind of taken out of Archie's hands today.
Literally, forced his hand.
It did. I mean, injury forced him to change his script, which we know he doesn't like to do. And it was fun to watch guys get more minutes. Anthony Leal in the game, period. Christian Lander, just getting him more minutes. Yeah, he's going to make mistakes, but we see the brightness that he has, his eyes and all of that. And it's good to see that and to see the different rotations and the possibilities with those.
Yeah, and I really thought, Lander scored 2 buckets right away consecutively. One was a nice three. And then he missed a few threes in a row. And really, I know the game is there's a lot of other factors that go into it, but if one of those threes goes in and he shoots after that, I think he has a big day. I think he gains a ton of confidence and feels – you could tell after those 2 buckets, he felt like he was the best player on the floor. And that, I'm not going to over-exaggerate it. He played well. I thought he played well for the time he was in there. I think he grew today. I think we'll see more positive moments out of him because of today. I thought Jerome came in and looked pretty comfortable. He didn't do a ton, but he looked good. We rebounded the ball decent. In the first half, we were in the ball game for a great portion of that first half with Trey Davis only having 3 points. And so there was a lot of positives I felt like that came out of this. This is not one of those games I'm going to bitch and complain because we should have had a chance to win. Indiana could have played its absolute best game of the year and lost by 10.
Yeah, and a lot of the factors that people like to talk about really don't have any bearing on that today. But one that did, that you just talked about, Trey Davis, only having 3 points. I know I looked up, I think it was as late as 10 minutes to go in the game or 11 minutes thereabouts. He still only had 5 points, was 1 of 8 at that time. Of course, Michigan's a gigantic team, but hey, man, that's the position that you're going to have to play until you develop that shot. But Michigan just too big and too strong. They're just too good. They're coached well,
and they're smart. That's right. They're coached well. They let Trey Davis get away a few times and get to that left hand, the right shoulder. But for the most part, you could tell they played him to not allow him to go to that left hand. And, that's obviously the scouting report, but Hunter Dickinson's the same way. If you can get him to have to turn to his other shoulder, turn to the left shoulder, to use his right hand, it's much more difficult on him. And so, Michigan not just is a really, really good offensive team with tons of weapons. Defensively, they're connected. You hear that term used a lot. But they understand how to complement each other on the defensive end of the floor. And they're, that to me, I mean, you could call them the 3rd-ranked team in the country. You could call them the number 1-ranked team in the country. Those top 3 are separated from the whole rest of the universe. And Michigan's right there. You could rank them number 1. With their wins, they have much more quality wins than Gonzaga does, that's for sure. And that'll only continue throughout the season.
Absolutely, and I was watching them today. At every position against Indiana, they were just bigger. They're just bigger, stronger, faster. They move. Older. Every time they move, they move with a purpose. Everything has a purpose, and you can tell. It's like when you played.
And you can look at this. A lot of teams across the country, I'm not just picking on Indiana, but a lot of teams across the country run a pro-style offense, okay? And one of the biggest problems with that is most of the time, most of these teams don't have pro-style players. And Indiana is, I think, the prime example of that. Even though Trey Davis will play in the NBA, right now he doesn't have an offensive pro game. And so there's no one on Indiana's team that has a pro offensive game, and they run a pro-style offense. Michigan, on the other hand, has 4 guys that will for sure play in the NBA and maybe 6 or 7 guys that will play in the NBA. Every option they have on the floor has a pro-style game. So therefore, Juwan Howard moving down to Michigan from the NBA in assistant coaching to run that style of offense, it works really, really well. And as long as he's got those kind of weapons, it's going to continue to work well.
Daniel asks, why do you think that Trayce Jackson has such a problem getting the ball in the hoop? I mean, I don't know how much of a problem, but part of that, I wonder, is it the fact that he does not have that shot in his game to 100%. Draw his defender out to respect him?
100%. Hunter Dickinson never came within, I mean, he was social distancing himself from Trayce Jackson Davis when he was outside the lane, because he never went with him anywhere close to him once he was outside the lane. And that's the scouting report. Of course, it's much more difficult on him. But also another part of it is really the only part of Trayce's game that is developed is that left hand, turning over his right shoulder, using his left hand. And until he has some more weapons and more options in there, he's going to struggle. But hang on a second. I'm not blaming it on him. Luka Garza struggled to score the other night against Hunter Dickinson the exact same way.
Never seen him more pissed off than he had this year. He was just furious.
There's a lot of 7-footers. And then there's a lot of 7-footers in college basketball and obviously the NBA, but some of them are just built different and longer. And Hunter Dickinson is just longer than your average 7-footer. He's hard to score over the top of. He's not crazy athletic. He's not going to jump up and down like a pogo stick, but he's long and he's got a really long wingspan. And you saw how much, if you watched the game the other night, you saw how much Luka Garza struggled to score over the top of him. And Trayce is even 3 inches shorter than Luka Garza. So that's going to be a struggle to score against that guy for everybody in the country, let alone just Trayce.
They did, Indiana, and this is not the first game, a lot of easy shots missed. And when you're a team like Indiana that does not have a lot of options, a lot of scoring options, you cannot miss the easy ones, the bunnies. And they seem to have a propensity to do that too often against the better teams.
Yeah.
Or is that more about defense from the other team?
I think Michigan missed a lot of bunnies around the basket also. I mean, it's just
the shooting was similar.
It's just kind of, it's difficult to score in there. I mean, honestly, one of the things you learn as a shorter guy playing at this level is it's much easier to score from 5 feet than it is from 2 feet when you're my size. And so, I think the fact that Trayce doesn't have a great game of finishing or a great bunch of weapons at finishing from 6 feet out, that's why I think with the jump hook, honestly, I think Race Thompson is a better finisher on the inside, not dunking the ball. When you say finisher, everybody thinks, oh my gosh, Trayce's dunks are incredible. They are incredible. You can't teach that. I mean, Race Thompson's a great athlete. You can't teach him to go dunk like Trayce does. But on the flip side of that, Race is a better finisher from 4 feet out or 6 feet out. So Indiana will continue to struggle with that.
Race was 3 of 5 today. Trayce Jackson Davis was 3 of 12 on the day. So Indiana shot 38% overall. And another an odd number at one point in the game, late in the game, Christian Lander was outscoring Trayce Jackson Davis 7-5.
Yeah, so it is, and you know what? It could have been a lot worse. He could have easily outscored him on the day, because if Christian makes 1 or 2 of those threes later in the game, Christian might have had 18 today. I mean, I think he's got that capability. His confidence level is it goes up and down within the game itself, and I think that as he gets older, hopefully he has on an Indiana uniform, because I think he'll continue to get better.
As far as the development, I mean, I don't know how to answer that. That's on both. It's on the player and the coaches. So
it is.
I don't know what percentage to put on both, because I'm not involved in practice. I can't answer that question, but we do know that it's on both. But we also know that he has not developed like he should. So you have to blame both.
You definitely do. I mean, there's no other way to look at that. I've posed this question numerous times throughout the year. Most of the time when I'm frustrated and mad after games, but what can Trayce do right now that he couldn't do when he got here? And I don't think anybody has an answer for that. I mean, he's bigger and stronger and more physical. I'm talking about scoring the basketball from an offensive perspective. What's he better at? And I don't think that anybody really can give you an answer that can be proved by statistics and by game film.
Joey Brunk not missing this year. Certainly not having a big guy has not helped, but he is not a guy that was going to make a huge difference. But he's someone that you can definitely bring off the bench and battle with poundage.
Here's okay. So and Alan, not to disagree with your statement, appreciate the comment for sure. But I mean, what would the lineup be? I mean, are you going to play Brunk, Race Thompson, and Trace? Are you going to play them all three together? Because if you do, then you've only got Al and one other guy.
No, but it's just able to have him come off the bench. I think.
And I get it. I understand that. I don't know. I don't want Race going out of the lineup very much. I mean, I want him in there as much as possible. There's a lot of times this year we could have played with bigger guys instead of three guards. Maybe that's the option that we're talking about and we go to. I mean, I get that because we've struggled at the guard position for sure.
Next up, Luke asked, what are thoughts on where you go from here? Well, the next up is you have another game that you've got to play. And actually, they've got multiple games yet before the Big Ten tournament. One of those is a rivalry game. You've got the makeup game with Michigan State, a team that is playing well, a team that needs to win. So you're going to be challenged again. Then you're going to have the rivalry game where your manhood is going to be challenged. There's going to be a lot of challenges for this team, mental challenges.
If you want to make the NCAA tournament, you have two must-win games. I mean, and then you can't go lay an egg in the Big Ten tournament. You got to win a game there. But I mean, it's right in front of you. The fact that they have kept Indiana kind of as the last four in or any four in up to this point, losing to Michigan doesn't hurt you. It's not a big deal at all. So you've got it right in front of you. If they've got you in going into today, which they did, Joe Lenardi is almost always right. He's also not a dummy either. He knows the size of Indiana's fan base, and he's going to keep Indiana in as long as he possibly can. And right now, they're going to be out. Like with this loss, they're going to be out, but it doesn't hurt you that bad. But you got two must-win games. And Michigan State's a team that 2 weeks ago we all thought was a dog, and we would roll over them pretty easily. We were happy when they rescheduled that game. Now they've beat Illinois and Ohio State and Indiana and everybody since then. So it's not a for sure win anymore, but it's a must win. And if it's right in front of them. Indiana has the opportunity still to make the tournament, but you've got to go win two road games. And obviously neither one of them, they're two teams that beat you already this year. So it's not going to be easy.
Here's a bright spot. We talked a little bit about this.
Other bright spot, mini corn dogs.
Lander was the best game of his career. Of course, he got to play the most because of that.
Most comfortable game of his career. I definitely agree.
Armand Franklin having to sit out today, that was not something that you wanted to see. But the more minutes, just getting minutes, the importance of those minutes, I can't impress upon you because the more you're in there, the less nervous you feel, the more comfortable you feel, the more you see, I've seen this before. Now you know how to react to it. It's like anything you do. And look, you can see his speed.
Indiana fans are smart, okay? I mean, they've watched a lot of good basketball over the years, and they understand things. People that watched the basketball game today, if you didn't see the difference in Christian Lander after he scored those two baskets, just his demeanor, just the way he ran up and down the court, just the way he bodied up on defense a little bit. He was so much more confident in that short little span. And, Jim, you're exactly right. This guy's confidence level could go out of control if he had, I don't want to say unlimited minutes, but a lot of minutes. Just say that.
Yeah, and Anthony Leal. Let's don't forget about him. We haven't seen him. I've been wondering why, because shooting is something they could use. He got into the game today, and his first shot was a 3 attempt from the corner. Didn't go in, but good-looking shot. And I'm like, man, he just needs to keep shooting that shot. They need to keep getting him that shot. I'd sure like to see him get a lot more opportunities.
Yeah, and it's the exact same answer. I can give the same answer. If he gains more confidence when he comes in, if that shot had been in the first 10 seconds of the possession, I don't think he would have taken it. And that's the difference between an Anthony Leal as a freshman and probably what we'll see as Anthony Leal as a junior and senior. Because as the second he's open, I don't care if it's on a fast break. When he's a junior and senior, he'll be shooting that shot and probably most likely making it.
There was a time, too, late in the game. Christian Lander was just right of the top of the key. Had an open three. It came around to him. But instead of taking that, he worked the offense instead. I was surprised because, wow, he was a little open. I'm like, I couldn't believe he didn't. But I was happy to see him try to work offense instead. To me, that shows mental growth because he had taken shots.
It also shows the fact that he missed a couple of three-pointers going into that shot. Because if he had made those other ones, he would have taken that one, and we would have wanted him to take that one.
Yeah.
He's a guy that can go off for, 20 points on any given night. He truly can do that. Now, that's a ridiculous statement to make because he's not done it this year so far. But I think everyone who watches every game can understand he's got that capability, and his confidence level really determines and dictates, what he's going to do in a game, I think. And remember, he's still 17 years old.
Jerome Hunter gets a start. And let's don't forget senior day, too. We got to talk about that. Armand Franklin. Al Durham was the only starting or one that plays.
Why is nobody am I an idiot here? He's not going to the NBA. He's coming back next year, is he not? Why would he not come back?
Maybe he transfers. Maybe he goes to Europe. Maybe he tries to find a league somewhere. I don't know. Maybe they've had a talk.
I think he'll be back.
Well, here's a thought for you. Joey Brunk did not go through.
He didn't play all year. He's definitely coming back.
Yeah, so
that's a given. That's a given.
Yeah.
But I don't understand why it's not just been talked about. And maybe it has been talked about. Maybe I'm not at the press conferences and somebody's asked him the questions before. But why would he not come back? There makes no sense to me. He's given free reign. There's not very many guys in his position. I mean, there's no guards coming in that are going to force him out of the lineup. He's the best guard Indiana has. Does anybody else not think that?
No, it's exactly.
He's the best scoring guard Indiana has, including Armand Franklin.
We'll certainly have to see what they do with their decisions. But of course, with the COVID and everyone being able to come back, it was, I guess, one of those deals where you just don't know. You go through the situation like maybe Justin Smith. I think he did go through, but he was a graduate student. He graduated in 3 years. Right. And it's also worth mentioning Justin Smith has accomplished some things by transferring that Al Durham didn't. He is in the top 20 right now, and Al Durham has not been in the top 20 in his career here at IU. He's also going to get to play in the NCAA tournament, which very likely, unless Indiana does something crazy, Al Durham is not going to get to do that either. So, a lot of people talked about Justin Smith being a bad teammate and all that stuff, and his current teammates don't seem to think that at Arkansas. His coach raves about him. They're doing well. So it's not always what you seem with what's going on teams, people.
Blah, blah, blah. Hey, Indiana's better without Justin Smith. I think there are certain situations where it's just better for everyone. I think it's a better situation for Justin Smith to be at Arkansas. It's better for Indiana that he's at Arkansas. I do it game after game, and I say, look, I don't really like rooting for this team because I like rooting for them. I just don't like the way that they're playing. You add Justin Smith to the equation, and I probably wouldn't watch.
Well, from what we've seen,
look at the stats and do this show based on stats afterwards because he's a player I cannot stand to watch play.
And I understand from what we had seen and how that goes
in the NBA, making money. I hope he plays great, but I just don't want to see him in an Indiana uniform. I don't like the way he plays.
Trey Galloway, one of the freshmen that we had promised for at the beginning of the year, but man, he's kind of play has gone away. But that seems, I'm not getting into this type of discussion, but that kind of goes along with a lot of people we talk about that goes on, and something we'll talk about later. But it's odd to see a player get worse as the season goes along, or not worse, but not improve at all, and maybe regress some.
I mean, And here, I'll just beat the dead horse again. Like we've talked about people's confidence and how much it helps Christian Lander, how much it helps Anthony Leal. Trey Galloway's no different, and he's not gained the confidence because he's not played very good. I mean, you have to You have to do some good things and play pretty well in order for your confidence level to rise, and he's done the opposite. I mean, he shoots – his name's Trey Galloway. I'm going to start calling him Deuce Galloway because he's definitely not a three-point shooter. And he shoots under 20% from the three-point line. I know his dad wanted him to be a three-point shooter, but we're calling him Deuce for the rest of his career because he's a much better shooter from inside the lane. But he just doesn't have any confidence. I mean, the guy, he's not played very well. We'll laugh about that statement, and everyone will point fingers at me when he's a junior and senior and say, you said he wasn't very good. And I'm not saying he's not very good. I've loved Trey Galloway since the first grade. I've watched this kid play, and he's a terrific player. And as a junior and senior at Indiana, and probably even as a sophomore, he'll be a really, really good player at Indiana. He'll probably be great by the time he's a senior. But he's struggling this year. And all I'm saying is he's not playing well. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I think he'll be great. He's just not playing very well this year, so he's got no confidence. Which is
not uncommon for a freshman,
sure.
Especially in
who's thrown into playing tons of minutes. I mean, he started the season. He was starting. So, I mean, that's a lot of weight. Not very many freshmen start.
And there's no doubt that this seems to be a system, whatever it is, it's difficult for players to come into and grasp quickly. That seems to be the case.
It's too complicated? Like, what are you implying with that? Like, what are you trying to say?
Well, it seems to be apparently scripted. So,
just messing with you.
Yeah. But as we move forward, the next game, what can they take from here? We don't know if we're going to have Armaan Franklin. He's in a boot. Usually that's preventative, but when you're out for an entire game, you're like, you don't know, but are they gearing towards Purdue, gearing towards Big Ten tournament?
But let's not kid each other here. And let's not act like Archie Miller and the coaching staff and the training staff are total morons. Like, they didn't expect to win this game either. I didn't expect to win this game. As fans, we did not expect to win this game. If you're going to sit him out and give him some extra rest, today's the day you sit him out because they need to win Michigan State. And they need to win at Purdue. And they need Armaan Franklin to do that. And so it doesn't shock me at all that he didn't play. It might have shocked me if he did play.
And then, so what's next for them? What are they going to do? They're playing Michigan State, say, and they have everything to play for. They're trying to get into the NCAA tournament. They're not there yet, but they're close. That's a must-win game for them.
Sure it is. This would now be considered a bad loss if you're Michigan State, especially being at home. And this would wipe out the victory that they went to Assembly Hall and got here. Like, losing to Indiana would wipe them out. They got everything to play for. You're right. But so does Indiana. Like everybody does. It should be a really fun game to watch because there should be some battles going on in that game.
Yeah, Michigan State loses, they're out. They cannot survive because they're not even in yet.
They got back-to-back. They got back-to-backs with Michigan to end the year. If they could somehow figure out a way to split that, they're in.
But you can't lose to Indiana and do that, though.
You could lose to Indiana if you can figure out a way to beat Michigan. But they're not beating Michigan. Like, that's a rivalry game, and Michigan's going to take every opportunity. Juwan Howard's the coach. They're going to take every opportunity possible to stomp Michigan State.
I can't read all this, so it's a lot. So why are people taking shots at these young men? It's coaching. You see a kid go 2 and 12 at the 3. Coach gets him into practice. After practice, shots up. Scrimmage coach gets his shots up. Not just 3. Coaches help fix the other aspects of player. Are players getting better? That's the question.
All of those statements I agree with, except for the fact that you're putting it 100% onus on the coaching. That's not true. I mean, players have to put the work in and get better on their own. But the part I do agree with for sure is you can't have a flaw in the way that you practice something if you want to get better at it. Now that's also not entirely true. You can get better at it, but you can't get to the point where you're going to consistently be a good shooter if you do something wrong, if you have a major flaw. And there's a few major flaws. I just don't know. The thing I have called the coaching staff out on is I don't know that there's someone there capable of fixing it, because I've watched this for 2 solid years now, and I can see it from the sideline, and I don't know why they're not fixing it. I don't know why the players are not held responsible for changing the errors that they have in their shot, because Rob Finney would be a good shooter if they would truly force him to work with me for an hour. Armand Franklin would be probably one of the top 3-point shooters in all of the Big Ten if they would let me work with them. Al Durham, already good, but could be that much better. Like Jerome Hunter, probably the best shooter in the Big Ten if they let me work with him. Like, honestly, and I'm not promoting myself on this. I'm just telling you, somebody on the coaching staff I feel like should be able to do it too, but for some reason it's not happening, and I don't know why.
This is something that keep forgetting about. You know, they have 2 open scholarships. You've got another guy on the – I don't know if that includes
this
Parker
better be
Stewart.
some grad transfer conversation right here, because you better do what Michigan did and go get a guy from Columbia that's as good as that Mike Smith is, because that dude makes their entire team. If they didn't have him, they would have 4 losses this year already.
Well, the fact that you have those 2 open scholarships, that's a problem, because that's 2 guys you don't have on your bench that you can't rely on, instead of having to go into the freshmen and rely solely on them. And one of which is a reclassified freshman who was probably coming here just to get better this year. This was not a year he probably expected to really play that much. But having those 2 open schollies, man, that really hurts, especially when you get an injury. But you know what? I'll just play devil's advocate for a second with you, and I'll say, all right, but it is giving the freshmen the opportunity to play so that next year they'll have more minutes under their belt. You can argue all along that. Would I love to have 2 shooting guards right now on this team that could fill it up? Sure. Would I love to have a Mike Smith right now at point guard? Yeah. You know how much better I think Trace and Race would be if we had a Mike Smith as a point guard? Incredibly better. Yeah. You know what? Landon says, how about this? I seriously think that they have a chance to beat MSU. I don't think they'll beat Purdue.
They do have a I
agree with them. I agree. I think that they can win that Michigan State game. I don't see him winning the Purdue game either.
Can I stop this for a second?
Absolutely.
And just let you know that I literally just look up at the screen at one of Yogi's 59,000 screens we have in here, which is an awesome place to watch games. And the very first thing I see is a Justin Smith missed 3-pointer. The very first thing I see, it's right here in front of me. And
he's
the
happy.
Very first thing I see is a Justin.
He's
Smith
happier than his
missed
mini corn dogs.
No, it makes like I have a mini corn dog that almost digested and it's all the way back up here. It brings back flashbacks, so I want to throw up.
But yeah, I agree with you, Landon. I think they do. They can go there. They've got to play for something. They got to find some pride in themselves. They've got to reach down.
Let's not kid each other. Purdue's no world beater. Like you want to talk coach of the year.
They're a confident bunch.
You want to talk coach of the year. People in that conversation right now. Matt Painter's got to be there. How many times do you hear me say this, Jim? You go line them up man for man. Okay, you go line up Trace versus Williams and all those guys. They're not more talented than Indiana is. I honestly believe that. I do not think that Purdue is a more talented bunch than Indiana is. I would probably give the edge to Indiana, especially if Armand is available. But they understand. They're connected. They understand how to play well. They understand how to play hard. They understand defensively where each other's going to be. I mean, Indiana's supposed to be this pack line defensive team. I mean, who's a better team? You go pull any coach in the Big Ten right now. Who's a better defensive team, Purdue or Indiana?
Purdue.
13 of them are going to say Purdue.
Everybody will say that.
Yeah,
I mean, there's very few teams in Indiana's a better defensive team than. Yeah, there are very, very few teams that Indiana's a better defense. Lander and Stewart, yeah, that's something to look forward to. Still don't really know what the reason for Stewart sitting out this semester is. It's not going to matter. He's not playing, so it doesn't matter anymore. But that is a bright future to think about. Man, you got a guy that could truly knock down shots out there consistently if he can, with a guy like Lander that can play make. That would be fun to watch.
When are we going to see that? I mean,
hopefully next year, but I don't know.
Well, hang on a minute. So is Rob Finney leaving? Like, I mean, we've seen that he's not coming out of the lineup no matter what. So when are we're expecting to see that 2 years from now as a junior?
You know what?
I'm just being a jerk about it, but I mean.
Well, no, but because at some point I've done my best and pretty good job of staying clear of everything today. But at some point, that question, he has to answer that question. I mean, when we get to the end of the season, because it's probably not appropriate now, but if I get the opportunity, my question is, what has happened? What is there that why should there be another year of this? Why should we go forward with this when we know what it's done? I'm not going to get into all that.
I'll just let you talk in a circle on that one because, I mean, there's no answer. There's no answer that someone can give you.
And that's why I'm not bringing it up and getting into that discussion now today. I mean, we're mentioning move on because it's pointless. We got to get to the end of the season. I'm going to ask that question, but we'll get there then. They've got some more games to play. They've got to find themselves. They've got to go up and show pride. They played hard today, but
I don't think today is a negative. I don't think today.
No, they played hard.
They didn't. There were some positives that came out of this game. The Rutgers, nothing positive came out of that Rutgers game. Like it looked like a bunch of guys that quit. To be honest with you. And so today they could have easily quit and thrown the towel in, and I don't think they did that at all. I think they've got some positives heading up to Michigan State, and it is a for sure winnable game. Michigan State's not a great team. They're playing well together right now. They're well coached. They're connected a little bit more on the defensive end, but they're not that good. At the end of the day, I'll straight up say Michigan State's decent. They're playing pretty well, but they're not that good. They're beatable for sure. And Purdue's beatable. They're just playing well.
Do you think this team's holding each other accountable?
I don't know. I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because we're not there every day. We don't know what – I don't know. I mean, do I think the coaches hold the players accountable? No. Otherwise, there's no way Finney would be on the floor. You can't put up that many zeros consistently and continue to be on the floor.
Yeah, I
appreciate your comment on there, but I mean,
because I know that
here's the deal, though. So, Jason, super appreciate everybody's comments. I really do, and I always like them. Come on, it's the interaction is the fun part of the show. But I mean, this is not one where we're gonna we could have said that after the last game. We could have said it after the game before that. Today, there's no point in just piling on at this point. Obviously, they're playing terrible. They're not. Indiana is not a very good team. It's not playing very well. So, I mean, yeah, you have to hold it has to start at the top. It has to be the coaches are held accountable first, but the players are also accountable.
And we talked about this defensively. And you've said it. The pack line defense, I don't know that we're really seeing. I don't know.
I know one team in the world that plays the true pack line defense the way it should be. Virginia, and they're really good at it. No one else is. And he's great at coaching it. Tony Bennett's great at coaching that. And so that doesn't mean anybody else is going to be great at coaching it. Look, that would be like telling everybody else to run Bob Knight's motion offense. If you don't know how to run it and you don't know how to coach it, you can't just say it all of a sudden, hey, guys, we're going to watch this film and this is what I want you to do. It doesn't work that way. And you can't just expect these guys because we run the pack line defense that all of a sudden we're going to be like Virginia. We're not. We're not anywhere near that perspective. And in order to play that way, you've got to run your offense the same way too. And unfortunately, I do think we run our offense that way, which we really suck at.
Yep. Let's do a quick reset. Of course, after the game with Todd Leary coming to you live from Yogi's here in Bloomington, brought to you by the Finney Hospitality Group, Nathan Finney and Chris Martin, Kelly, manager here, everybody. We appreciate them. Make sure you stop by, whether you're checking a game in or whatever, just out and around, man. It's a great place to watch any game, but a great place to hang out. Coming up next, we'll be back. When is the next game? Is it Wednesday?
Tuesday or Wednesday, I can't remember.
Tuesday. Oh, yeah, the rescheduled game, but that's at Michigan State. As they travel to East Lansing. Maybe they can recur some magic. But after the game, of course, we'll be coming to you following that game. We'll be back then. We'll be back Monday morning with Indiana Sports Beat, of course. Charlie Miller will be on there. We'll have more to talk about as the weekend continues. More games roll out. See how the Big Ten plays out. The Big Ten, man, is going to be Michigan. We saw him playing Indiana today, but is this team that really you think can win the national championship?
Yes, without a doubt. I think Michigan, Gonzaga, and Baylor, if one of those three doesn't win the national championship, that other team went on an incredible run because these three teams are, not just so much better. They're truly in a different league. And Ohio State's really good. Okay, I get that. I don't even know whoever else, 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever they are. Illinois is really good. Could Illinois win the national championship? No. Not with Desanmu, not with anybody that they cannot beat these teams. There's no way they could go through and beat Gonzaga, Baylor, and Michigan. No chance.
Even Iowa's a team that has a lot of weapons.
Here's how Iowa can do it. You remember how Indiana made it to the national championship in 2002? They shot like 55% from the three-point line for 4 games in a row. That's the only way Iowa could get there. And defensively, I just don't think they could stop. I mean, if they played Gonzaga and Michigan regularly, those teams would average 130.
Well, you mentioned earlier they just played Iowa and Luka Garza, and man, I just remember his look. He was sitting over there, and he was just as frustrated as he could be because they shut him down.
Yeah, and let's not hesitate to mention Jack Nunge. Poor Jack Nunge with another season-ending injury. Just state of Indiana guy that I know, even though he's at Iowa, we all root for him and all that. Just had a really tough year, so unfortunate for him and thinking about the Nunge family for sure.
Yeah, down in Newburgh, down by Evansville. Wished he'd have been in an Indiana uniform.
You and me both. That would have
been nice to see.
You and me both.
We can't thank everybody enough for joining us. We appreciate you guys as always. We'll be back to do it all again on Tuesday night and, of course, Monday morning with Indiana Sports Beat. Of course, thanks to Todd Leary, the star of the show after the game with Todd Leary, and everybody here at Yogi's. Nathan Finney Hospitality Group, Chris Martin, Kelly, the manager here, and everybody else. You guys go out and have yourself a great day as well. Be safe. Do something nice for somebody. Continue to wear your mask. And until Monday, for Todd Leary, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.